I would like to share my empirical study of using BookRoll, focus on the written pattern detection. This case study is based on my own courses. Last 2018, there are 21 graduate students who use BookRoll. And the 15 features is based on Yamada Sensei's papers. And the pedagogy, we use a flipped classroom, and we encourage students to have a self-regulated learning. So the activity is designed, the pre-class students need to have a BookRoll reading and submit a preview. And then the in-class discussion. Then after class, students also have to submit their reflection, all the record being captured. And we use 3 methods to do the reading pattern detection. 2 of them are clustering, and 1 is sequence mining. The first one is by clustering. We use a k-mean, in general, so it's a 5, k is a 5, and based on the 15 features. Here's the result. The x-axis is 15 features. The y-axis is the distribution of features. And for the next and previous, they have a lot of distribution. So we further analyze each distribution. There are correlation with the clusters and come up with this description. So we conclude there are 5 clusters based on the features. For the first cluster 0, don't much have activities. So we define that as disengaged. For the cluster 1, their activity, most of them are based on the page turning, so previous and next. So less active, no other activities. We divide it as a surfing. And for the cluster 2, they do most activity on the markers and the jumps. So they are kinds of targeting. They know what they need, and they're seeking the keywords and the concept. For cluster 3, there's more action on the change memo and most jump. So it's a kind of reflective. Students would like to think twice and do critical thinking. And for the cluster 4, they have most memo and most activities. We define it as a comprehensive. So I do lots of note and hardworking students. So in general, we classify it into 5 clusters. The second cluster is based on, in fact, is based on Professor Pardo's papers, inspire us to do this. So I will show you the distribution of BookRoll action and how we do the clustering. This figures on your right-hand side, the x-axis is a reading sequence. So the entire is a distribution of BookRoll action in all reading sequence. The upper one is the high score, top 20%, and the lower part is lower 20%. The length is between 50 to 100. And we also use colors to distinguish the distribution. So you can see the high scores, most of their BookRoll activities is for bookmarking jump and the previous page and the change memos. And for lower scores, they just do the add markers. And we further classify it into 3 types based on the reading sequences. And this is the result. So basically, the same class 3 clustering is similar to the previous one. So we classify them as a targeting, comprehensive, and reflective. So the third method is use sequence mining. We define a reading sequence as a motif. Motif is like gene sequence. So we take the sliding window as a 3 instead of 100. Previous case is 100. See here it's a sliding window, it's 3. And we use the exploratory factor analysis. So the idea is to with a minimum number of motifs and factors to explain the maximum variance. So the x-axis is the number of motifs most frequently occurred. The left y-axis is the number of factors we use to explain. And the right-hand side y is the variance. So there are 2 lines, dotted lines. Take this blue one as an example. We find is that there are 18 motifs with 4 factors, which can explain almost a 90% variance. And for this green dotted lines, up here is 50 motifs with 10 factors. and we can have the Miskman explanation. So let's look at the blue block and the green blocks. So blue blocks is the 4 factors. It's almost explained most of the variance, and this is the continuum of that. So finally, we conclude with the 4 factors. This is their reading patterns. And also we come out the description of the 4 factors. It basically still comprehensive, reflective, and targeting. So it's remarks of BookRoll reading pattern detection. Basically, we use 3 different kinds of methods, and these methods are consistent, leading to 5 BookRoll reading patterns, which is disengaged, serving, targeting, reflective, and comprehensive. And further on, we should focus on good designed learning activities, which can lead students to 3, targeting, reflective, and comprehensive. And in general, this part, their grade will pass. But there is a limitation, which is the description of the reading patterns in this case study, purely based on BookRoll only. So for different system, different course, we need to redefine the patterns. And I would like to show you this. It's quite an honor as parents of students in Kyoto University. This is Professor Hongzhou. This year he won the Nobel laureate. With will, you succeed. And thank you very much.